I am sitting in my small basement apartment right now, the one I have been renting from my own parents for the past 2 years. They told me it was family helping family, a way to get back on my feet after losing my job. I believed them. I paid my rent on time every single month, never missed a day. But I did not know that their so-called help came with conditions nobody ever told me about. And when they finally gave me their ultimatum, I realized something painful. I was never really their son. I was just a convenient tool. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from today. And if you have ever felt used by your own family, hit that like button, so I know I am not alone in this. Subscribe if you want to hear how I turned their demands into their biggest regret. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Marcus. I am 28 years old, and I work in information technology for a mid-sized company in the suburbs of Chicago. It is not a glamorous job, but it pays the bills, and I am good at what I do. I have always been the quiet type, the kind of person who prefers solving problems on a computer screen rather than dealing with drama in real life. My family consists of my parents and my older sister Arletta. She is 32 now, 4 years older than me, and for as long as I can remember, she has been the golden child. Arletta is beautiful, charming, and knows exactly how to make everyone love her. She has this way of walking into a room and becoming the center of attention without even trying. Our parents adore her. They always have. Me, I am the opposite in almost every way. I am introverted. I do not like being the center of attention. I express my feelings through actions, not words. And somehow, that always made me invisible in comparison to my sister. Every report card I brought home was compared to hers. Every achievement I earned was met with a reminder of something Arletta had done better. It was not that my parents hated me. They just seemed to love her more in a way that was impossible to ignore. Arletta got married when she was 25 to a man named Derek. My parents absolutely loved Derek. He was handsome, successful, and treated Arletta like a princess. At least that is what everyone thought. They had 2 children together, Jaden, who is now 4 years old, and Lily, who just turned 2. For a while it seemed like Arletta had the perfect life, the perfect husband, the perfect kids, the perfect everything. But life has a way of shattering illusions. 2 years ago, I hit a rough patch. The company I was working for went bankrupt overnight, and suddenly I found myself unemployed with bills piling up. I was looking at apartments I could not afford and trying to figure out how I was going to survive. That is when my parents offered me their basement apartment. The basement had been converted into a small living space years ago. It was not fancy, but it had a bedroom, a bathroom, a small kitchen, and enough room for one person to live comfortably. My parents said I could rent it for $800 a month. The market rate for similar apartments in that area was around $1,200, so I thought they were genuinely trying to help me. I accepted their offer with gratitude. I told myself this was what family was for. I promised myself I would pay them back for their kindness by being the best tenant they ever had. And I kept that promise. Every single month I paid my rent on time. Not once did I miss a payment. Not once was I even a day late. But I did more than just pay rent. I helped around the house whenever I could. I mowed the lawn every weekend during summer. I shoveled snow in the winter. I took out the trash, fixed leaky faucets, and handled any small repairs that came up. I thought I was showing my appreciation. I thought I was proving that I deserved their help. I did not realize that in their eyes, I was just building a debt I could never repay. 6 months ago, everything changed. Derek left Arletta for another woman. He packed his bags one night while the kids were sleeping and drove away to start a new life with someone else. Arletta was devastated. She showed up at our parents' house in tears, clutching Jaden and Lily, looking like her entire world had collapsed. And in a way it had. My parents immediately opened their doors to her. Arletta and the kids moved into the main house, taking over the guest bedroom and the small office that became a makeshift nursery. Everyone rallied around her. Everyone wanted to help her heal, including me. At first, I was genuinely sympathetic. I understood that my sister was going through something terrible. I offered to help with the kids whenever I could. I would watch Jaden and Lily for a few hours on weekends, so Arletta could rest. I would pick them up from daycare if she had an appointment. I thought I was being a good brother. But slowly, without me noticing, a few hours on weekends turned into every evening after work. It happened gradually. My mother would knock on my door around 5:30 and say that Arletta needed a break. Could I just watch the kids for an hour or two? And I would say yes, because how could I say no to my own family? But then 1 hour became 3 hours, and 3 hours became every single night. And before I knew it, my entire schedule revolved around taking care of children that were not mine. The first time I said no, I will never forget the look on my mother's face. I had an important video conference call scheduled with my manager. It was about a major project that could lead to a promotion. I told my mother I could not watch the kids that evening because I had work obligations. She stared at me like I had just slapped her across the face. "You do not have a family of your own," she said. "You do not have any responsibilities. Why are you being so selfish?" Those words hit me harder than any physical blow ever could. I had been paying rent to these people for 2 years. I had been helping around their house for 2 years. I had been watching their grandchildren for months. And in one sentence, my mother reduced my entire existence to nothing. In her eyes, my life did not matter because I did not have a spouse or children. My career did not matter. My dreams did not matter. Only Arletta mattered. I went back to my basement apartment that night feeling like a stranger in my own family. As the weeks went on, the demands only grew more unreasonable. Arletta went back to work about 2 months after Derek left. She found a decent job at a marketing firm downtown. The logical thing would have been for her to arrange professional childcare for Jaden and Lily. There are plenty of daycare centers and babysitters in our area. But Arletta did not do that. Instead, she simply assumed I would be the babysitter. My new routine became a nightmare. Every morning I had to wake up an hour early to help get the kids ready for daycare. I would drop them off on my way to work, even though the daycare was 15 minutes in the opposite direction from my office. Every afternoon I had to leave work early to pick them up before the daycare closed. And every evening, I would watch them in my basement apartment until Arletta decided she was ready to be a mother again. Sometimes that was 7 in the evening. Sometimes it was 9. Sometimes she would text me at 8:30 saying she was going out with coworkers and would be back around 11. My job started to suffer. I was constantly asking to leave early or work from home. My manager began questioning my commitment. There were whispers around the office that maybe Marcus was not as reliable as everyone thought. A promotion I had been working toward for months started slipping through my fingers. When I complained to my father about the situation, he dismissed my concerns completely. "Arletta is going through a difficult time," he said. "You are a man. You need to be strong and help your family." I asked him a simple question. "What about when I am going through a difficult time? Who helps me then?" He did not answer. He just changed the subject and walked away. Around this time, I discovered something that made my blood boil. Arletta was not paying any rent to live in my parents' house, not a single dollar. She had been living there for months, eating their food, using their utilities, and contributing nothing financially. Meanwhile, I was still paying $800 every month to live in a basement with a window that barely let in any light. When I asked my mother about this, she acted like I was being ridiculous. "Arletta is a single mother," she said. "She needs support. You are different. You do not have any burdens." I pointed out that I had my own burdens. I had my career, my future, and now I had the responsibility of caring for 2 children who were not even mine. Did none of that count for anything? My mother waved her hand dismissively. "That is just family responsibility," she said. I realized then that family responsibility was a term that only applied to me. Arletta could take and take and take, and it was fine because she was going through a hard time. But I was expected to give and give and give without complaint, because apparently my struggles were not real struggles. Things got even worse when Arletta started criticizing how I cared for the children. She would complain that I fed them dinner at the wrong time. She would complain that I let them watch the wrong cartoons. She would complain that I dressed Lily in an outfit that did not match. Nothing I did was ever good enough. I was giving up my evenings, my weekends, my career prospects, and all I got in return was criticism. One afternoon, Jaden fell while playing in the backyard. He scraped his knee on the concrete. It was a minor injury, the kind every kid gets a dozen times growing up. I cleaned it, put a bandage on it, and gave him a popsicle to make him feel better. He stopped crying within 5 minutes. But when Arletta came home and saw the bandage, she exploded. She called me screaming like I had intentionally hurt her child. She accused me of being negligent and irresponsible. She told our parents that I could not be trusted with her children and that something terrible could have happened because of my carelessness. My parents took her side immediately. They did not ask me what happened. They did not listen to my explanation. They just assumed Arletta was right and I was wrong. That was the moment I realized I had no allies in my own family. A few days later, my parents called me upstairs for what they called a serious conversation. When I walked into the living room, I found my father sitting in his armchair, my mother on the couch, and Arletta in the corner with her arms crossed and a cold expression on her face. My father did not waste any time. "We have made a decision," he announced. "Either you agree to be the official babysitter for Jaden and Lily every day from 5 in the evening until 9 at night, or your rent will increase to $1,500 per month." I could not believe what I was hearing. $1,500, I said. That is higher than market rate for this area. That is more than I would pay for a nicer apartment somewhere else. My mother shrugged. "The market is the market," she said. "This is family, and family has its own rules." I looked at Arletta. She was smiling. Not a warm smile, but a triumphant one. She knew exactly what was happening. She had probably orchestrated the entire thing. I understood in that moment that this was not a negotiation. It was a trap. They had designed the situation so that I had no good options. Either I became Arletta unpaid servant, or I paid an absurd amount of money to continue living in a basement where I was clearly not wanted. I told them I needed time to think about it. They gave me 1 week to decide. I went back to my apartment that night and sat in the darkness for hours. I did not sleep that night. I just sat on my bed staring at the wall, running through every moment of the past 2 years in my mind. I had paid my rent faithfully for 24 months. I had helped with every chore around the house. I had sacrificed countless hours caring for children who were not my responsibility. And what did I have to show for it? An ultimatum that treated me like property rather than a person. I thought about what would happen if I agreed to their terms. My life would become an endless cycle of work and babysitting. I would never have time for myself, for my career, for any kind of personal life. I would watch my professional opportunities disappear, while Arletta lived her life freely, knowing that her brother would always be there to pick up the pieces. I thought about what would happen if I refused and paid the $1,500. I would be living in the same house with people who clearly resented me paying more than the apartment was worth, and constantly reminded that I was the bad guy for not sacrificing everything for my sister. Neither option was acceptable. So I decided to create a third option. Over the next 2 weeks, I pretended everything was normal. I continued watching the kids. I continued paying my rent. I smiled at family dinners and nodded along when my parents lectured me about responsibility. No one suspected anything. But in the quiet hours of the night, I was planning my escape. I searched for apartments online during my lunch breaks. I found a small one-bedroom in a different part of the city closer to my office. It was $950 a month, which was actually cheaper than what I was paying my parents. It was smaller than the basement, but it was mine. No strings attached, no conditions, no ultimatums. I scheduled a viewing for a Saturday afternoon when I knew my family would be busy. The apartment was perfect. Clean, quiet, with good natural light and a view of a small park. I signed the lease that same day and paid the security deposit. For the next week, I slowly moved my belongings out of the basement. A few boxes here, some clothes there. I did it gradually, a little bit each day, so no one would notice. I took my important documents, my laptop, my books, my clothes. I left behind the furniture that belonged to my parents and anything that would not fit in my car. Nobody noticed a thing. And why would they? Nobody in that house paid attention to me unless they needed something from me. I chose a Saturday night for my departure. I knew Arletta had made plans to go out with her friends that evening. She had already texted me earlier in the week, not asking, but telling me that I would be watching Jaden and Lily. On Friday afternoon, I loaded the last of my belongings into my car. I took one final look around the basement apartment that had been my home for 2 years. Then I sat down at the small kitchen table and wrote a note. I have moved out. This month rent has been paid in full. From now on, you can handle your lives without me. Do not contact me unless you are ready to treat me with respect. Marcus. I left the note on the counter where they would find it. Then I walked out the door, got in my car, and drove away at 11 that night. I did not look back. The next morning, my phone exploded. I had 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. My mother was frantic. Marcus, where are you? Arletta needs you to watch the kids tonight. My father was angry. What kind of game is this? Come back immediately. And Arletta, of course, was furious. You selfish jerk. I had to cancel my plans because of you. I did not respond to any of them. Not a single message. Not a single call. Over the following days, I heard through a distant cousin about the chaos I had left behind. Arletta had to cancel her night out and stay home with her own children for the first time in months. She was outraged, as if being asked to parent her own kids was some kind of unfair punishment. My parents suddenly realized that they had lost $800 a month in rental income. They tried to find a new tenant for the basement, but nobody wanted it. The apartment did not meet code for a regular rental. It had been fine for family, but strangers required proper permits and inspections that my parents never bothered to get. Arletta had to start paying for actual childcare, a real babysitter who charged real money. Suddenly, her finances were much tighter, and she did not have a free servant to fall back on. The mess I left behind was entirely of their own making. They had built their comfortable lives on the assumption that I would always be there to carry the weight. When I removed myself from the equation, everything collapsed. The first few weeks in my new apartment were strange. I had made the right decision. I knew that. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two different things. There were nights when I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had been too harsh, wondering if I should have tried harder to work things out, wondering if maybe I was the selfish one after all. The pain was not about missing the basement apartment. The pain was about realizing that my family did not love me the way I had always hoped they did. I had spent my entire life trying to earn their approval, trying to prove that I was worthy of their affection. And in the end, all I was to them was a resource to be exploited. That realization hurt more than anything else. But as the days passed, I started to notice something. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I could come home from work and just relax. I could cook dinner at my own pace, watch whatever I wanted on television, and go to bed without dreading the next demand that would come through my door. I started focusing on my job again. Without the constant interruptions, my performance improved dramatically. My manager noticed the change and started giving me more responsibility. 3 months after I moved out, I received the promotion I had been working toward. It came with a significant raise and a new title that I was genuinely proud of. I joined a gym near my apartment and started working out regularly. I learned to cook meals that I actually enjoyed eating. I started reading books again, something I had not had time for in years. I was rebuilding my life from scratch, and for the first time, I was building it for myself. I also made new friends. My neighbors across the hall were a young couple named Brandon and Lucy. They were around my age, friendly, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. We started having dinner together once a week. They invited me to their barbecues and birthday parties. They treated me like a person, not like a problem to be solved or a resource to be used. Through them, I learned what healthy relationships actually look like. People who give and take equally. People who respect each other's boundaries. People who show up because they want to, not because they are obligated to. For the first time in my life, I understood that family is not just about blood. Family is about the people who choose to love you. 4 months after I left, my mother called. Her voice was different than I remembered. The demanding tone was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like exhaustion. She told me that Arletta was struggling. Derek still was not paying child support. The babysitter was expensive, Things were hard. Then she asked if I could help out a little. I let her words hang in the air for a moment. Then I asked her a simple question. Mom, are you calling because you miss me, or because you need something from me? The silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. I said, when you call, because you genuinely want to know how I am doing, I will answer. But right now, I am not ready for that. I hung up the phone. And here is the strange thing. I did not feel guilty. For the first time in my life, I had set a boundary with my family, and I did not feel like a terrible person for doing it. I felt free. Looking back on everything that happened, I have learned some important lessons. I learned that kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. Helping others is beautiful, but not when it comes at the cost of your own well-being. There is a difference between being generous and being exploited. I learned that sometimes walking away is the only way to save yourself. You cannot fix people who do not want to be fixed. You cannot earn love from people who do not know how to give it. I learned that the people who truly love you will never put conditions on that love. They will not threaten you. They will not manipulate you. They will not treat you like a tool to be used and discarded. I do not hate my parents. I do not hate Arletta. Hatred takes too much energy, and I would rather spend that energy on people who actually deserve it. But I also do not need their approval anymore. I spent 28 years trying to be good enough for them, and it was never enough. Now I am done trying. My apartment is quiet these days. There is no sound of children running around. There is no Arletta criticizing everything I do. There is no disappointed looks from my parents. There is just peace. And sometimes peace is the most valuable thing a person can give themselves. If you are watching this and you are in a similar situation, I want you to know something. You have the right to choose yourself. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to walk away from people who treat you like you do not matter, even if those people are your own family. Your life is not less important because you are single, or because you do not have children, or because society expects you to sacrifice for others. You matter. Your dreams matter. Your peace matters. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from family members who were taking advantage of you? How did you handle it? Drop a comment below and let me know your story. If this resonated with you, please give this video a like so more people can find it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like this one, and share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. I hope you find the courage to choose yourself just like I did. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.